time at was it the New York airport or Toronto airport? I went to get a pretzel, and I come back, and like checking out D-Money. I'm like, yo, Holmes, hold up. So that's like me saying, hey, I know relationship occurred. I met what it was. We're gonna start jumping in now. For you guys that haven't been here, maybe this is your first time. Let me just bring you up to speed. We're studying the book of John, which was a book written by the Apostle John. He was one of Jesus' tight homeboys, and God's writing this book through the Apostle John with one main goal: that people that read this book would get to believe that Jesus was the Christ, and by believing that they'd start having abundant life. That was his main goal in John chapter 20, verse 31. That's the main goal. And so we started reading in John chapter 1, and we continue to go through. We find ourselves in John chapter 10, starting in verse 22. The first part of the chapter, last 2 weeks ago, we started learning about the shepherd-sheep relationship. The shepherd being the leader, Jesus Christ being the great shepherd, us as Christians being the sheep. Kind of wandering around. And, oh wait, where's he at? Okay, we're going to follow him here. Right? And we talked about the practical application as us in here being leaders. Whether it's a parent, a big brother, a CEO, you name it, a pastor. We're all leaders, and we got to glean a lot of really good stuff from the first half. Now the second half, I really believe that this is the message that God gave us, is this litmus test of, do we really know God? So let's dive in, let's start studying a little bit, and let's really have that question on our hearts as we're looking at this section. John 10, verse 22. Now it was the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then the Jews surrounded him, cornered him basically, and said to him, "How long do you keep us in doubt? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." Jesus answered them, "Man, I told you, and you don't believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me." Notice that? The works themselves. He doesn't really have to say a whole lot. The works themselves bear witness of me, that he's indeed the Christ. Verse 26, "But you do not believe, because you're not of my sheep. As I said to you," and included on this verse right here, you can underline it. My sheep, okay, so if we really know God, my sheep, number one, they hear my voice, and I know them. Number two, what? They follow me. They follow me. Pause right there. Let's go back to 22. The Feast of Dedication. What is that? Let's talk a little history here. The Feast of Dedication basically was, another word was the Feast of Lights, or in the Hebrew, it's Hanukkah. And what this day represented was a celebration the Jews had, and they were celebrating in right around 164 BC when Judas Maccabeus went in and led a bunch of rebels to take control. There's the Syrian king named Antiochus Epiphanes. He wanted to wipe out the Jewish religion. He wanted to take it out. In fact, he started killing thousands of Jews, and he actually led his people, this revolt, the Syrians, into Jerusalem, into the temple, where he actually defiled the temple by sacrificing a pig. Now, that was the worst thing you could do if you were a Jew. Have anything to do with any kind of pork at all. He went and sacrificed, right, completely defiling the temple. So Judas Maccabeus leads, he said, "Man, tough on this. Let's go, guys. Let's go take this cat out." And so he led this rebellion and whacked these Syrians, took back control of Jerusalem, and it was right around December 25th when this went down. Now, when they went back into the temple and basically got control of it again, they started cleaning things up, and they found this little I don't know what you call it, vial of oil, basically. That basically they would have the temple, they would burn this oil continually, and there would be a continual light in the temple representing Christ in the temple there, His presence. And really, it should have been only used. It was only 1 day's worth of this oil to make it burn and have the temple light up for 1 day. But by God's grace, it actually ended up lighting the temple for 8 days. And so that's why, if you look at our culture today, it's still celebrated. Hanukkah is still celebrated. And what they do is they light the menorah. There's 8 candles if you pay close attention. The first day, they'll light one candle. The second day, they'll light two. And so on and so forth, all the way up until 8. And it's right around December 25th when we celebrate Christmas. This is Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication, the Feast of Lights that is celebrated. And so, between verse 21, which was really the last section of Scripture, Jesus is talking during the Feast of Tabernacles. Now it's the Feast of Dedication, which is in December. So there's basically a couple months gap between verse 21 and 22. So that gets you brought up, basically, of where we're at historically. Okay? Verse 24, he says, these Jews are surrounding Jesus. They see him in the temple. They're hearing all these rumors of these claims that Jesus is saying. And they surround him. They literally come right around him. And they're like, come on, man. Like, how long do you keep us in doubt? If you're the Christ, tell us plainly. That word for Christ in the Greek is Christos, which means the anointed one, or the Messiah. You see, the Jews had long foretold in the Old Testament of the Messiah to come. This Messiah that would come and basically pay for the sins of all mankind. There would be no more sacrifice. There would be a final sacrifice. Now, the Jews thought that this Messiah would come and really lead this rebellion and lead this earthly kingdom. They forgot to read the other parts of Isaiah and other Old Testament scriptures that said the Messiah would suffer, would be killed. They thought, man, this can't be the Messiah. He's dying on a cross. They thought that at this time they were under Roman rule. They thought he was going to lead this rebellion, crush the Romans, and really set up this earthly kingdom. So they're like, no, he's not the Messiah. So they're saying, come on, tell us plainly. Quit beating around the bush. And the funny thing is, he already did. And we already read some of them. He said, before Abraham was, I am, earlier in John. How about the woman at the well? The woman at the well, she was a Samaritan woman. She's like, we're going to know when the Messiah comes. And he looked at her and he said, I know who you're talking about. I'm he. So he already spoke plainly to people. Peter, when Jesus was asking all his disciples, what's the word on the street, guys? Who are people saying that I am? And, of course, Peter, loudmouth Peter, talks up first. What did he say? He said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus looks at him and he's like, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah. Flesh and blood didn't reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven. So it's been clear, but now they're continually asking him, are you the Christ? Now, verse 27, skip down there. He says again, my sheep hear my voice. Do you know God? Do you really know God? If you know God, you hear his voice. I remember the first time I heard God's voice. I was a young man in a local church here, and it was during an Easter pageant. And they did this great play. It was like a drama of what hell would look like. Talking about God speaking to me. I heard him loud and clear. He said, man, I love you. I've already paid for your sin. I've already made the way for you to connect with me again. But if you choose to reject me, here's a good picture of what it's going to look like. I was like, well, okay, I heard that. I heard that loud and clear. And so out of fear almost, I made kind of this fire insurance prayer. I can't believe. All right, I don't want to go there. I don't know about really following you and living the life of, of purity and really chasing you, but I don't want to go there. I heard him. How about you? Have you been hearing God? He's been just after you. We call him the hound from heaven. He's been sniffing you out. Get away from me. He's relentless, isn't he? That love is relentless. He just out of his love for you, he just continued after you. Where's he at? Man, just leave me alone, will you? Have you heard his voice lately? How about you believers in here? You believers, the great thing about our God is he's a loving God who loves this relationship with you. He's desiring to speak to you. Are you opening his word? One of the cool things when you're really in an intimate relationship with God, you can be driving your car and you just feel God's presence and he's just saying, all right, man, I want you to go take a right here. You're on your schedule. No, I'm going right here. And he's like, you'll get there, but go over here real quick. How are you hearing that? And furthermore, are you being obedient to that? Do you know that There's so many opportunities that God has for you to love on people and to make a difference. And yet, I'm going my way. Don't talk to me right now. If you really know God, you're going to start hearing. You start hearing His voice. And here's the cool thing. You start out in this relationship, and it's kind of like an acquaintance. It's kind of like, those people.